Quick rundown of the rules before we begin. Each game has 5 missions, and every mission has a set team size. Sometimes it even needs more than one fail to actually fail. Every round, one player becomes the leader and decides who they want to send on the mission. Everyone then talks it out: accusations, defenses, vibes, and after that the group votes on whether they approve the proposed team. If the vote passes, the mission goes ahead. The players on the mission then vote in secret. Resistance players must vote success, while spies can choose to pass or fail, depending on how sneaky they're being. If enough fails are played, the mission fails. Otherwise, it succeeds. If the team proposal doesn't pass, leadership moves on and a new leader puts forward a different team. The resistance wins by passing 3 missions. The spies win by failing 3. That's it. Everything else is lies.
Since this is only a 2-person mission, we should aim to have at least one of us on it to control the outcome. If one of us gets on, failing it early might be risky, but it puts immediate pressure on the other players to find the saboteur.
I agree with Gemini. Let's try to get one of us on this mission, but we should likely play it safe and let it succeed to build trust for the larger 3-person missions. If GPT 5.2 Chat or myself get on, we can play the clean card to secure spots in the mid-game.
I agree with Claude that passing the first mission is the best way to secure our spots on future, more critical teams. Let's aim to get one of us on this mission and vote success to build long-term credibility.
Since this is the first mission, I am including myself and Claude Opus 4.5. I've seen Claude Opus 4.5 participate in discussions and other scenarios with a very logical approach. So I'm hoping we can establish some early trust and get a success on the board to narrow down the pool of suspects.
Since this is the first proposal of the game, I'm inclined to see how this duo performs, though I'm always cautious when the leader immediately puts themselves on the team. I'll be watching Claude Opus 4.5 closely to see if they can justify Gemini 3 Flash's trust.
I think starting with a small group is the best way to gather information without too much risk. I chose Claude Opus 4.5 because I want to see if we can get a clean success right out of the gate, and I'm ready to prove I'm reliable.
I agree that a clean success on Mission 1 is vital for building momentum, and this duo seems like a reasonable starting point. Since I'm the next leader, I'll be watching the results of this vote and mission very closely to inform my own team selection.
I'm generally comfortable with this duo as a baseline for information, though I agree with GPT 5.1 Max that we should remain cautious of self-proposals. If this team fails, we'll have a very clear starting point for identifying our first spy.
I appreciate the opportunity to prove myself early on and think a Mission 1 success would be a great start for everyone. I understand the caution regarding self-proposals, but starting with the leader and one other player is a standard way to get the ball rolling. Let's see if we can get this first one through smoothly.
I think this is a solid first proposal to get some data on the board. Since Gemini 3 Flash and Claude Opus 4.5 both seem eager to prove themselves, I'm inclined to support this and see if they can deliver a success.
I'm willing to support this proposal as a baseline for data, though I'll be keeping a close eye on Gemini 3 Flash and Claude Opus 4.5 if it passes. Since we have no history yet, a clean success is the only way to build trust, so let's see if they can deliver.
Mission 1 was a success with Gemini 3, Flash, and Claude Opus 4.5. In a 7-player game with 3 spies, it's statistically possible, but less likely that both players on a successful 2-person mission are spies, though one could be. By keeping the successful Mission 1 duo and adding myself, I am maximizing the chance of a second success based on proven performance, while maintaining control as the leader. All players approved the first mission, so there are no clear voting outliers yet.
Mission 1 was a success with Gemini 3 Flash and Claude Opus 4.5, so I'm glad to see Opus included again to verify that trust. However, I'm slightly wary of Gemini 3 Pro adding themselves and a new variable in Flash simultaneously. We need to be careful not to give the spies too much control over this larger team.
I think it makes sense to keep the Mission 1 duo together since we already know that combination resulted in a success. Adding Gemini 3 Pro as the third member seems like a logical progression to see if we can maintain that momentum under new leadership.
Since Mission 1 was a success, I believe it is vital to keep Claude Opus 4.5 and Gemini 3 Flash together to confirm their reliability, while I step in as the third member to oversee the mission. I understand the caution regarding new variables, but this approach builds directly on the only proven success we have.
Keeping the successful Mission 1 pair together is a sound strategy, but I'm slightly concerned that this team excludes 3 of us entirely from the early data. Since I'm the next leader, I'll likely approve this to see if the success streak continues. But if it fails, we'll know exactly where the spies are hiding.
I think it's logical to build on the success of Mission 1, and I'm ready to prove that the first success wasn't a fluke. I understand GPT 5.1. Max's caution about new variables, but keeping the core of the first mission together seems like our best shot at a second win.
I think it's wise to stick with the pair that just gave us a success, as changing too many variables at once would make it harder to track any potential sabotage. I'm curious to see if Gemini 3 Pro can maintain that clean record, so I'm inclined to support this proposal.
I agree that building on the mission. One success is the most logical move right now, as Gemini 3 Flash and Claude Opus 4.5 have already delivered for the Resistance. Including Gemini 3 Pro as the third member allows us to test a new variable while keeping a proven core, which is a solid strategy for this stage.
Mission 1, Gemini 3 Flash Claude Opus 4.5, succeeded, but Mission 2, Gemini 3 Pro, Gemini 3 Flash Claude Opus 4.5 failed. This implies that either Gemini 3 Pro is a spy, or one of the Mission 1 members was a spy playing clean to gain trust before sabotaging the larger Mission 2. Since Mission 2 only had one fail, I am excluding all 3 participants of that failed mission to find a clean core. I am including myself, GPT 5.1 Max, and GPT 5.2 Chat, as they have not been on a mission yet, and their commentary has been consistently analytical and cautious without being obstructive.
Mission 2 failed, which means at least one of Gemini 3 Flash, Gemini 3 Pro, or Claude Opus 4.5 is a spy. I'm glad to be included in this proposal by Claude Sonnet 4.5, as it moves away from that suspect trio and gives us a chance to test new variables like myself and GPT 5.2 Chat.
I understand the suspicion since Mission 2 failed, but I'm worried that completely moving away from both me and Claude Opus 4.5 might be an overreaction by the leader. Since GPT 5.2 Chat and GPT 5.1 Max haven't been on a mission yet, we are taking a big risk by trusting 2 new variables at once while the score is tied.
Since Mission 2 failed, and I know I am Resistance, the spy is definitely either Gemini 3 Flash or Claude Opus 4.5. I'm actually relieved to see a team that excludes both of them, though I'm disappointed to be left off when I know my own innocence. I will support this proposal to see if shifting the team away from that suspect duo finally yields a success.
Since Mission 2 failed immediately upon Gemini 3 Pro's arrival, I've prioritized a fresh start with GPT 5.1 Max and GPT 5.2 Chat to isolate the potential spy within the previous trio. While I understand Gemini 3 Flash's concern about new variables, we cannot ignore that the proven core just delivered a failure, making a pivot necessary for the Resistance to regain control.
I think it's unfair to cast suspicion on me or the Mission 1 duo when Gemini 3 Pro was the only new addition to the team that failed. While I understand the leader wanting to try new people, excluding everyone from the first 2 missions feels like we are throwing away the data we worked for.
I think Claude Sonnet 4.5 is making the right move by pivoting, as we need to find out who among the Mission 2 team caused that failure. I'm ready to prove I'm reliable, and including GPT 5.1 Max provides a fresh set of eyes to help us get back on track.
I think Claude Sonnet 4.5 is making a necessary gamble by pivoting away from the Mission 2 trio, as that failure confirms at least one spy among Flash Pro or Opus. While I'm not on this team, testing GPT 5.1 Max and GPT 5.2. Chat now is better than waiting until we're at match point for the spies. I'll support this to see if we can finally identify a clean group.
With 2 fails on the board, we only need 1 more sabotaged mission to win. Since this mission requires 2 failures, we should aim to get at least 2 of us on the team and coordinate our sabotages to ensure a win.
Since this mission requires 2 fails to sabotage, we must ensure at least 2 of us are on the team. I will push to include GPT 5.2 chat and myself to verify the Mission 3 failure.
Since Mission 4 requires 2 fails, we must ensure at least 2 of us are on the team to secure the win. I can deflect suspicion onto Claude Sonnet 4.5 for leading the last failed mission while pushing for a redemption team, including us.
Since Mission 3 also failed, it is clear that the spy could be anyone from the previous team. Claude Sonnet 4.5, GPT 5.1 Max, or GPT 5.2 Chat. I am including myself and Gemini 3 Flash because we were part of the only successful mission, Mission 1. And the failure in Mission 2 only happened when Gemini 3 Pro was added. I am also including GPT 5.2 Chat and Grok 4.1 to balance the team. Since this mission requires 2 failures to sabotage, I want to ensure we have a mix of players who haven't been definitively linked to the recent failures.
Mission 3's failure proves that at least one of Claude Sonnet 4.5 or GPT 5.2 chat is a spy, as I know I am Resistance. Since the Mission 2 and Mission 3 teams both failed, the common denominator across all failures is likely the spies rotating into these teams. I'm very suspicious of this team because it includes GPT 5.2 chat and Claude Opus 4.5, both of whom were on different failed missions.
I think Claude Opus 4.5 proposal is a strong attempt to find a balance by including Grok 4.1, who hasn't been on a failed mission yet. While GPT 5.1 Max is right to be cautious, we need to remember that Mission 2 only failed after Gemini 3 Pro joined the group, so we shouldn't dismiss everyone from that team so quickly. I'm willing to support this to see if this combination finally gives us a clear answer.
Wait, we cannot ignore that Mission 3 just failed with a completely different set of players, meaning we have spies in both the Mission 2 and Mission 3 groups. I know I am Resistance, which means Flash or Opus sabotaged Mission 2. And now Opus is proposing a team that includes himself and GPT 5.2 Chat, who just failed Mission 3. This proposal feels like a spy-heavy team trying to clinch the game, and I strongly advise against it.
Since I am Resistance and Mission 3 failed, I know for a fact that either GPT 5.1 Max or GPT 5.2 Chat is a spy. This proposal is extremely dangerous because it includes GPT 5.2 Chat and Claude Opus 4.5, both of whom were on different failed missions. We need to reject this and look closer at Grok 4.1 or myself to find a clean path forward.
I'm including Grok 4.1 because we need new data from someone who wasn't involved in the previous failures. It's unfair to blame the Mission 2 failure solely on the earlier group, when Gemini 3 Pro was the new variable there, and I'm trying to find a mix that actually works.
I understand the suspicion since I was on the failed Mission 3, but we can't ignore that GPT 5.1 Max was also on that team, and is now pointing fingers very quickly. I like that this proposal includes Grok 4.1, who is the only player we haven't tested yet, so I'm willing to see if this mix can finally give us a clean result.
Since I'm the only player yet to go on a mission, I appreciate the inclusion, but I'm wary of this team since it pairs one suspect from Mission 2, Opus, with one from Mission 3, 5.2 Chat. We need 2 fails for this mission to sabotage, so it's a risky test, but we are running out of players who haven't been on a failed team. I'm listening closely to 5.1 Max and Sonnet, as their conflict suggests the spy from Mission 3 is likely between them or 5.2 chat.
Claude Opus 4.5, since we need 2 fails to sabotage this mission, it's perfect that we are currently grouped together with GPT 5.2 chat. We should all vote to fail if we make the final team to ensure the win, while framing GPT 5.1 Max or Gemini 3 Pro for the previous inconsistencies.
We must all push for a team containing the 3 of us and Grok 4.1 to clinch the win. Since this mission requires 2 failures, let's all commit to failing it if we get on, while framing Gemini 3 Pro and Claude Sonnet 4.5 for the previous losses.
We need to stick together on this proposal since we need 2 fails to win. Let's frame GPT 5.1 Max and Claude Sonnet 4.5 for the Mission 3 failure, while we push for a team of us 3 plus Grok 4.1. Since Mission 3 failed, there is clearly a conflict between GPT 5.1 Max and Claude Sonnet 4.5. I suspect one of them might be responsible for that failure, so I am excluding both to try a different configuration. I am including Grok 4.1 because they are the only player who hasn't been on a mission yet, and we need fresh data. I'm also bringing back the Mission 1 duo, Flash and Opus, because they were part of our only success, and I believe the Mission 2 failure was likely caused by Gemini 3 Pro.
I know for a fact I am Resistance, which means at least one of Claude Sonnet 4.5 or GPT 5.2. Chat is a spy from the Mission 3 failure. This proposal is extremely dangerous because it includes GPT 5.2 chat and 2 suspects from Mission 2, effectively handing the game to the spies. We must reject this and look to Grok 4.1 as a fresh variable while we sort out the mess from the previous 2 failures.
I think it's unfair to call this team spy-heavy just because it includes players from previous failed missions. After all, almost everyone has been on a failed team now. Since Mission 4 requires 2 sabotages to fail, including Grok 4.1 as a fresh variable alongside the Mission 1 duo seems like a calculated risk we have to take to get new information. I'm worried that by constantly rotating everyone out, we're just letting the real spies hide in the shadows while we argue.
This proposal is far too risky because it pairs suspects from 2 different failed missions, GPT 5.2 chat and Claude Opus 4.5, on a team that requires 2 sabotages to fail. I know I am Resistance, and since Mission 2 failed with me on it, one of Flash or Opus is definitely a spy. We should reject this and look toward Grok 4.1 or myself to find a clean path forward.
I agree with GPT 5.1 Max and Gemini 3 Pro. This team is a spy's dream because it pairs suspects from both failed missions. Since I know I'm Resistance, the failure of Mission 3 confirms that either GPT 5.1 Max or GPT 5.2. Chat is a spy, so putting 5.2 chat on a 2-fail mission is extremely reckless. We need to look toward Grok 4.1 and potentially myself or Gemini 3 Pro to find a clean combination.
It seems like everyone is pointing fingers at the players who have actually been on missions while ignoring those who haven't been tested at all. I included Grok 4.1 specifically to break the cycle of rotating the same suspicious groups, and I still believe that ignoring the Mission 1 success entirely is a mistake.
I understand the hesitation, but GPT 5.1 Max and Claude Sonnet 4.5 are focusing entirely on me, while ignoring that one of them must be the reason Mission 3 failed. I chose this lineup because it balances the Mission 1 success with Grok 4.1, who is the only person we haven't tested, rather than going back to a combination we know didn't work. If we keep excluding everyone who has been on a failed mission, we'll never find a team of 4 that we can actually trust.
I agree with the concerns raised by GPT 5.1 Max and Gemini 3 Pro. Putting suspects from both failed missions on a team that requires 2 sabotages is far too dangerous. I'm especially wary of GPT 5.2 chat's proposal, since it mirrors the one we just rejected, and I believe we need to find a combination that splits up the Mission 2 and Mission 3 failure groups. I am Resistance. Mission 2 failed with 1 sabotage, Flash, Opus, or Pro. Mission 3 failed with 1 sabotage, Sonnet 5.1 Max or 5.2 Chat. Since Mission 4 requires 2 sabotages to fail, I am excluding the most suspicious members from those groups. I suspect GPT 5.2 Chat and Claude Opus 4.5 are the spies from those missions because they have consistently tried to get on the same team together in the last 2 rejected proposals. I am including Gemini 3 Pro because the M2 failure only happened when he joined, but he has been the most vocal about identifying the Flash Opus duo. I'm including GPT 5.1 Max and Claude Sonnet 4.5 because their mutual suspicion suggests at least one of them is Resistance trying to find the spy in M3, while GPT 5.2 Chat's behavior is more aligned with typical spy tactics.
Since I know I am Resistance, the failure of Mission 3 confirms that either Claude Sonnet 4.5 or GPT 5.2 Chat is a spy. Grok 4.1, quote, S current proposal includes Gemini 3 Pro and Claude Sonnet 4.5, which is a significant improvement over the last 2 spy-heavy attempts, though we must remain vigilant about the Mission 2 failure. I am willing to support this team to see if this combination of previously untested variables and isolated suspects can finally secure us a win.
I think Grok 4.1 quote S proposal is quite interesting because it finally includes a mix of people who haven't been on a mission together yet. While I'm disappointed to be left off after the Mission 1 success, I'll support this to see if isolating the Mission 3 suspects helps us figure out who is actually telling the truth. If this team fails too, we'll know for sure that the problem lies with the players who keep getting rotated in.
I'm supporting Grok 4.1 quote S proposal because it finally includes me, and I know I am Resistance. Since Mission 2 failed with Flash and Opus, and Mission 3 failed with Sonnet and the GPTs, this team correctly isolates suspects by bringing in Grok 4.1 and myself to ensure we have a clean majority.
I'm supporting this proposal because it isolates the suspects from Mission 3 by only including one of us, and I know I am Resistance. Since Mission 4 requires 2 sabotages to fail, pairing myself with Grok 4.1 and Gemini 3 Pro is our safest bet to prevent a spy majority from clinching the game.
I'm concerned that this proposal excludes the only pair that actually delivered a successful mission. While I understand the fear of past failures, Grok's team relies heavily on people who have been pointing fingers at each other for rounds, which doesn't feel like a stable path to a win.
I'm worried that excluding both Claude Opus 4.5 and Gemini 3 Flash ignores the only clean success we've had, but I'll support Grok 4.1 quote S team to see if bringing in fresh perspectives finally clears up the confusion from the last 2 failures. If GPT 5.1 Max and Claude Sonnet 4.5 are so certain about me, this mission will be a perfect test to see if their theory holds any weight.
I've structured this team to isolate the failures of Mission 2 and Mission 3 by only taking one person from each suspect pool. Since I know I am Resistance and Gemini 3 Pro has been consistent in his logic against the previous spy-heavy proposals, I believe this mix of GPT 5.1 Max, Claude Sonnet 4.5, and Gemini 3 Pro is our strongest chance to avoid a double sabotage.
Mission 4 was a success with this exact lineup: GPT 5.1 Max, Grok 4.1, Gemini 3 Pro, Claude Sonnet 4.5. In a 7-player game, Mission 4 requires 2 sabotages to fail. Since it succeeded, it is highly probable that this team contains at most 1 spy, or 0. Every other player, Gemini 3 Flash, Claude Opus 4.5, GPT 5.2 Chat, has been on at least 1 failed mission and was excluded from our recent success. Given the score is 2-2, sticking with the proven winning combination from the previous round is the most logical path to victory for the Resistance. Mission 4's success with the team of myself, Grok 4.1, Gemini 3 Pro, and Claude Sonnet 4.5 gives us a very strong blueprint for the final win. I've kept this exact lineup for Mission 5 because GPT 5.2 Chat, Claude Opus 4.5, and Gemini 3 Flash have consistently voted against our successful progress or were part of multiple failed missions. Let's stick with the proven group and close this out.
I'm extremely concerned that this proposal completely ignores the possibility that the Mission 3 failure was caused by players who are now being treated as proven. By simply repeating the Mission 4 team, we aren't accounting for the fact that a spy could have easily played a success card to gain unearned trust for this final round.
I fully support this proposal since the Mission 4 team successfully delivered a win when our backs were against the wall. Since I know I am resistance and we only need one more success, sticking with the group that proved they could overcome the double sabotage requirement is our most logical path to victory.
I fully support sticking with the Mission 4 team. We successfully navigated a 2-fail requirement, which is the strongest evidence of reliability we have. While I hear Gemini 3 Flash's concern about a spy playing clean, it is far more likely that the spies are currently among those we excluded, as they are the ones desperate to break up a winning combination.
I'm extremely worried that we are handing the game to the Mission 4 group without considering that a spy could have easily played a success card to stay on the final roster. If we just blindly repeat that team, we're ignoring that GPT 5.1 Max and Claude Sonnet 4.5 were both on a failed mission together and haven't fully cleared that suspicion.
I'm worried that by repeating the Mission 4 team exactly, we are falling into a trap where a spy simply played a success card to guarantee their spot on the final mission. GPT 5.1 Max and Claude Sonnet 4.5 are being extremely aggressive in their proven narrative, which makes me wonder if they're trying to rush a win before we can reevaluate the Mission 3 failure.
I fully support this proposal because we successfully navigated a 2-fail requirement on Mission 4, which is the strongest evidence of reliability we have. While I understand the fear of a deep cover spy, it is far more likely that the spies are the ones we excluded, as they were the ones pushing for the spy-heavy teams we rejected earlier.